Hello and welcome to Power to the People with me, Graeme Pryce. They were dark, dark days of turgid turmoil and Tory twattery. The dark clouds of Conservative corruption had gathered over Westminster, and they were swollen with the deceit and dishonesty of 14 years, billowing with Brexit bollocks. The famous and feared door crept open and he emerged. He scurried rat-like to the podium, dashed with the early dots of an impending downpour beginning to appear on his narrow shoulders. A would-be Lord of the Flies who sought to make our island nation smaller and keep all the conch shells for himself. And even as he began to speak, the lines were being drawn. He had come equipped with eloquence and elegance, but the former was meaningless, and the latter began to drain away as the heavens opened. Despite the driving deluge, the leader of the corruptionists thought he was declaring war. But as an anthem of cheer began to echo through the air, those of us that had endured and suffered for so long knew that he was simply marching towards the cannons. And there it began. The first act of the mighty meme war of the 2024 election had taken place. And while the right-wing warriors of Whitehall recoiled in horror at the power of what their leader had done, all that we could see was a very silly-looking drowned rat with no umbrella stood in the continual, bitter, torrential rain. I was just looking at my channel analytics and I noticed that 53% of people who watch my videos weren't subscribed. The pain. Come on, just have a quick check that you've subbed, liked and rang the bell. Make a skinny old scouser a little bit happier today. Of course, there was always plenty of ammunition in storage. Social media and Twitter has been raging with Memeulous rage for years. Take a look at Twitter sometimes. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, especially if you follow a few Tory MPs. But there wasn't too much to hang a meme on at that point, other than the fact that the Tories are really, really shit. Things began to warm up quite quickly with more specific specialist memery. Quite early though, after Sunak told barefaced lies to the whole nation in the first TV debate, the left-leaning edgelords of Twitter and Facebook honed their memes to increase their deadly piss-taking potential. The polls began to look dire and the Tories were panicking all over the febrile lands of Twitter. But their continuous attempt to win votes by sheer dishonesty and utter twattery failed over and over again as they were mocked spectacularly for their past discretions. Yes, the meisters of Memeulous warfare gathered in their thousands to comment in the sections on the bottom half of the internet and launch such powerful, thought-provoking weapons as this. Enid Blyton was a bit of a racist, apparently. Though, I suppose she was, a product of her time. She's been pushing up daisies for quite a while, hasn't she? Long time looking at the lid, as my mother would have said. Although I did like a Secret Seven book when I was a teenager, and I had a copy of The Enchanted Wood, where my brothers had crossed out loads of the words and named, and replaced them with rude ones. The type of words that 11-year-olds think are rude are hilarious when you're 46. Yeah, wish I still had that book. I've digressed. Right, we had a few artistic corkers like this, and a few reminders of some figments of the past that we're all supposed to pretend just didn't happen, like this. Yeah, I'm going to guess she wasn't very happy to see that picture shared tens of thousands of times across social media. Don't know about the worst Prime Minister, but she certainly takes the trophy for the most fucking gormless one, doesn't she? Look at the state of her. Then there was this prick, who probably wasn't very happy to be reminded that he backed her. But really, the main event was to come, and within a few hours of the main event, there was probably the best and most poignant meme of the lot released. This one kind of surpasses humour because it's not really a laughing matter. I think I've made my feelings clear about this at the time, and regardless, change was afoot. Something happened which altered everything and gave us a whole new treasure trove of mockery and derision for the more dull-witted among us. For he had stepped up, Lord of the Cockwombles, leader of the lazy-minded, prince of populist pond life, the frog-faced emperor of ignorance himself, Nigel Farage, had stepped up. A cheer went up in every Wetherspoons across the land, even that one in Luton where Creepy Dave hangs out in the toilets all day. And while it had always been lingering in the background, suddenly the stench of gammon filled the air and the airwaves. The Conservatives recoiled in horror. They were already losing the battle, and it was becoming painfully clear that everybody now thought they were shit. None of the fascist bigots and GBB's viewers liked Little Rishi anymore. They were all switching over to Reform UK. Rishi tried to ignore them and Suella Braverman battered her eyelashes at King Nigel the racist and tried to make him swoon into the arms of the Conservative Party by promising to be an even more racist, homophobic, nasty, bigoted witch than she'd ever been before. Lee Anderson disappeared into the bathroom of the Reform UK headquarters with the new promotional material featuring pictures of Nigel Farage and wasn't seen for days. He eventually emerged with one really big muscly arm and a very guilty look in his eyes. Ironically, the very division, racism and willingness to believe populist bullshit that the Tories had so deliberately driven into their supporters worked entirely against them. For Nigel is the powerhouse of populist pish and pretentious propaganda. The fact that he is a complete and utter charade of a man was lost on millions, and the Tories bled support from every appearance of the muppet-faced froggy bellend. Despite an assassination attempt with a deadly milkshake, Nigel parried away accusations of his racist past, even the true ones, and seemed destined to prevail. The day of reckoning drew ever closer, and social media was cluster-bombed by a plethora of Reform UK bellends and bots. Before we knew it, there were only days left. The Tories' continual lies had not shifted the polls. Labour were quietly anticipating their biggest ever victory, and Reform UK voters had somehow allowed their complete and utter misunderstanding of their own country's electoral system and copious use of propaganda on social media to convince them that July the 4th would be a revolution and July the 5th would be King Nigel Day. Alas, it was not to be. As the dust settled, it became clear that an alarming amount of votes had gone to populist, fascist bellends in Reform UK, and inexplicably, there were still a few people that voted Tory. But the morning of July the 5th did not see a result that would be celebrated in Wetherspoons across the land before a kebab on the way home. Tears were shed, and tweets were hastily deleted by Tory MPs that had lost their seats, and while it had been closer than many would have liked, the stench of bitter gammon was slowly replaced by a sense of hope, a sense of renewal. And was that, finally, a chance of change? The chaos is over. The instability is gone. No more scandal, hopefully. Is this the reversal of decline? The end of weakness? Who knows? Only time will tell. But I definitely trust this woman over any Tories. Well said, Angie. Fucking have it, Tories. Bastards. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far. It's always very much appreciated. I apologise if you sent me any memes that I wasn't able to use, but I just wanted to have a laugh with this one and keep it a bit shorter. Please do hit the like and subscribe if you've had a giggle with me. You've got a laugh, haven't you? It's a lot easier to find humour in politics now that the Tories are out of office. But I have got some more serious stuff coming up. If you'd like to help out a bit further, there is, as always, the links to PayPal and Patreon in the descriptions box, along with the link to the Buy Me a Coffee page. There's still a hell of a lot to say about the Tories and the election. And this isn't all of what I've got to say, but it's as much of what I've got to say as I'm going to say today. Ta-ra-la. Play. I'm not a Karen, but like, there's about 12 kids running around screaming and shouting at outside. There's a park at the end of the street.